Hey moms, I'm Erica Zeal here with you today, creator of Nocta Fitness, and today I want to address the topic talking all about sugar. So I know for a lot of us, we love our sweet treats. We love to have something, maybe after dinner, during the day, and sometimes for some of us, it's a little bit easier to control that than others. And honestly, what I feel like a lot of that comes down to is, are you eating enough fat in your diet? Because if you're not getting food that's satisfying, that's filling you up, then you're going to want to crave those sweet treats, because the more sugar you eat, the more sugar you eat. So when it comes to sugar, some of the best advice I have is, one, try to replace eating that sugar with some snacks and healthy foods that are higher in fats and protein, of course, such as nuts. Almonds, walnuts are some of the healthiest nuts that you can eat. Avocados are amazing. I put avocados on like half of the meals that I eat. And olive oil, another great one. I use olive oils when it comes to cooking things, or I should say not cooking things. So I like to keep olive oil for when I'm putting it on like salad dressings, because olive oil has a little bit much lower threshold for oxidizing when you cook with it, which means if you cook too high of heat, it actually kind of can turn it into a toxin, which we don't want. So in those cases, when I'm going to saute things, cook things on the stove or in the oven, I tend to cook things with coconut oil or even butter. Yes, you heard me right, butter. I actually love butter. Some of my girlfriends, they laugh at me because I'm like the queen, and I put butter on a lot of things. I put real cream in my coffee, but you know what? It keeps me from eating a lot of sugar. And believe it or not, it actually can help stabilize your hormone levels. It's eating good, healthy fats. Our body needs that, especially as a female. I mean, we were meant to, have children. And when it comes to being pregnant and nursing, your body needs those calories, and fat calories are very important. Now, that said, fat has is more caloric dense than your carbohydrates and your proteins, but it doesn't mean that it's bad for you. You just got to kind of, keep it in moderation. So when you're adding those fats to, it should be every single meal you eat throughout the day, that's what I personally believe, because that's what I do, then you're much less likely to like cave later and be like, oh my gosh, whatever, if there's something out at work or at home or whatever, you're less likely to cave and eat that. And it doesn't happen overnight. It definitely is going to take time. So that's why, for me, I'm creating this 21-day program, Healthy Lifestyle for the Busy Mom, because we all want things that, are going to be quick and easy, but also very healthy. And it takes a minimum of like 21 days to start creating new habits. And for a lot of us, we might be at a different stage of where we are with our healthy eating. And for some of us, we're much better at, not caving into those sugar cravings. But for those of us that are, it doesn't mean that, you have to completely cut sugar out. But what I want you to start thinking of is, okay, when you start to want to reach for something that's high in sugar, whether it's a candy or a baked good or even breads and pastas and things, is, okay, well, what else could I replace that with that's healthier? Maybe it's fruit, which is great. I love my fruit, but the thing with fruit is it still is, a little bit higher on the glycemic index, especially like your bananas and things like that. So berries tend to be better, but that doesn't mean you can't eat bananas by any means. I would just try to eat them with a little bit of nut butter. Those are some of my favorite snacks. So to answer a lot of your questions that I got about, healthy snacks that are quick and on the go, fruit with nut butters or a handful of almonds or walnuts is honestly one of the easiest on the go snacks. Plus the kids love it too. So those are just some easy little quick snacks, and it's natural. That's the one really thing I want to get across is, let's get back to eating the way that it would be grandparents and great grandparents, because for a lot of us, when we were little, we were in that era of the processed food was really kind of starting to kick up. And I actually read a book in the last couple months, and it was really, really startling it was kind of an insight to the whole bringing up of the processed world and how their stuff is formulated so that you basically become addicted to it. So it really is an addiction, and it's nothing that you did wrong. It is really comes down to our whole food process, the companies. It's really actually very sad, and it saddens me because it's a lot of what is getting fed to our children even now when they're growing and developing. And they need those, the healthy, real food to feed them and nourish them and so that they thrive. So when they see you as a mom eating healthy, they're much more likely to follow in your footsteps. And so I find for me when it comes to, making dinners and things, they don't always eat what I want them to eat. Actually, sometimes very rarely do they eat what I really want them to eat, but I always try to choose the healthier options for them, things that are lower in sugars. I try to, always make sure there's a vegetable at least within reach. And for my youngest one, I even find feeding her off of my plate, and she'll eat more of it because it's, always better when it's off mom's plate, right? So anyway, I kind of want to get back to talk about the sugar thing a little bit more because it really is an addiction and it takes time to get that out. So I don't want you to ever go cold turkey on something because I feel like if you completely cut something out of your life, then you're much more likely to cave back in and want it, right? And you start thinking about it all day long. Like if you're like, okay, I'm not going to eat any chocolate, for the next 2 weeks, then all you think about is I want that piece of chocolate, right? That would be me. Chocolate is like my saving grace when it comes to, for me, that's what I would call my sweet treat. But I eat 80 to 90% dark organic chocolate. It has 3 ingredients in it. So that's what I want you to start thinking about, is finding things that are going to help satisfy those cravings but have less sugar. They're baked with real ingredients. So even if you're going to eat a baked good, it's baked out of your kitchen or the source that it's come from. And it has real sugar in it. And if you bake stuff at home, honestly, whatever the recipe might call, literally half that and half. I instantly do that with anything that we bake in our house. And believe it or not, it's not really going to be that big of a difference. And if you notice it right away, it might take a little adjusting. But sometimes we have to kind of just make ourselves fall into these paths of being healthy, and in time, it'll happen. So a little bit more about the sugar, and I want to share a little bit of my story with sugar. And I have eaten such a low sugar diet for a decade now. When I was around 20, 21, I was your classic kind of fitness instructor. I was in college. I was staying up too late, and I was eating at the time. This is something a lot of people don't really know about. I was eating a lot of soy. 10 years ago when that whole boom of eating soy was really good for you. So I was like, oh great, it's high in protein, it's good for you, it's not dairy, kind of getting off that dairy path. And I was eating way too much of it. And if you have any sort of health history in your family of thyroid problems, soy is something you should absolutely avoid, or at least really get out of your diet on a regular basis. And I learned that the hard way. And so I had kind of sent my whole body out of whack. My thyroid was, off, and things were just kind of going, not right. And my adrenals were being affected. And a lot of you may not even know what your adrenals are. And I could talk an hour on just talking about the importance of your adrenals. But in a nutshell, it's kind of your little motor that helps your body run. And so if you start throwing all that stuff out of whack, especially as moms, we're so tired, then it's going to go on the downhill. And you have to do things to help boost it up. And one of those things is just getting that sugar out of your diet so your body can, recover, and it doesn't need all that sugar to go, it's going to send your body crazy. And leading into that is the insulin, okay? So we all have heard of insulin and diabetes, and we know that sugar is bad for us because of insulin levels. Well, for some of us, for the average, person, if you're of a healthy weight, you eat pretty healthy, you should have, decent insulin levels. But then there are those of us that maybe have a normal weight and be healthy, and we have insulin levels that are super low. That is me. And you might look at me and be like, there's no way, that I'm someone who could be potentially on this path for being pre-diabetic, in the near future. And well, I actually have to really watch my sugar, and I always have. And part of that is I don't really actually like sugar, and so that's kind of like a saving grace for me, that I would rather eat fat. So that's where, if you look at my diet, I eat a fairly high fat diet. I eat a good amount of protein, and for the most part, all of my carbohydrates come from vegetables and fruits. I occasionally will eat some grains and things like that, but I have to really watch my sugar intake, because if I eat too much sugar, it can it'll make me feel lightheaded and dizzy and maybe a little nauseous. And agave is even one of those. And we get on these tangents of sugar this and sugar that, and what's the best sugar, and should we go, this route? Is stevia good for us? Is agave is the new thing? And actually, my honest opinion, if you're gonna eat sugar, eat the real thing. Okay, so in a nutshell, that's, all of that was sugar, and I can continue to talk a long time about this, but a couple takeaways I want you to think about is just start paying attention to how much sugar you're eating. Where is those sources coming from? What can you replace with that? And is it real? Can you add a little bit of something with some fat in it to help stabilize your blood sugar? Because that's what that fat really is doing. It's helping stabilize your blood sugar, so that way when you get that intake of sugar, your insulin levels and all that doesn't just like shoot through the roof, right? And then you get that that skyrocketing up, and then boom, before you know it, you've crashed, and then you're hungry again, and you're tired, and you're lethargic, and you should never feel tired and lethargic after you eat. So if you do, that's a red flag right there that what you're eating isn't quite right. So just start looking at the sugar intake that you have and see what little things you can tweak with that. So again, keep a watch out for my 21-day program is coming. I've got a lot of great recipes in there, and with no added sugars, but they're things that are going to be satisfying and filling, and your husband's going to actually like to eat them too, because my husband actually has helped me a lot with those because he loves to cook, and I like to cook, but he likes to cook a little bit more, so he's helped me a lot with putting together these recipes. So coming from another man, I can tell you that your husband is going to love these recipes. I love them. The kids eat a majority of them, at least little bites of them at least, so we're headed in the right direction. So anyway, hang in there, keep doing the best that you can. Don't ever be hard on yourself if you have a rough day. You caved and you ended up eating that Snickers bar. That's okay. You move on from that. So anyway, hang in there, have a great day, and my next video coming up, we're going to talk about how to help get rid of that belly bulge after baby. So have a great day.